Hello, everybody. Welcome to SportsSkope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this, 19th day of October. Got a good show tonight together. It's just going to be me and you tonight. Like I told you guys yesterday, Kavarius Tears was supposed to come on, University of Tennessee baseball player. He had some issues with practice and additional meetings that he just heard about. Infield and outfield and school and all that. So we're going to try to get him to come on the program the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as of right now. And also I'm looking to get Mike Westhoff on if his assistant will ever get back to me on his book, Figure It Out, former special teams coach for the Saints, the Dolphins, and the Jets, 32 years. So possibly 1 week from today, I'll have Mike Westhoff on if I can get his assistant to get back to me. If not, I will get a hold of Westhoff myself. Today's show, obviously, Dak Prescott is back. I'm going to talk about that. And Kyrie Irving had a long interview with The Athletic. Got a few comments about that and communication with athletes, professional athletes. Deion Sanders, got some info on Deion Sanders here. He had a pretty interesting interview on Sunday on 60 Minutes, and I was surprised by some of the stuff that he said, Deion Sanders there. What's up, Corey? Hey, Brian. Deion, I'll tell you guys what. I will tease that. But there's a perfect storm setting up for Deion, and this is going to be must-see TV. But first, man, guys, Corey, appreciate it. Appreciate it, Brian. Guys, there is so much drama. I actually cut off my Netflix temporarily, okay? I cut off my Netflix temporarily so I can do this program more. And I've had to take a pay cut from my work. You all know that, right? But there's so much drama between the NFL owners here. There's so much drama with the NFL owners. You can make a TV show, guys. This is no exaggeration. You can make a TV show based on the stories that have came out the last few days about the NFL owners. Seriously. Let's start with this, Daniel. And yeah, Brian, I see your question there. Ask, is Baker Mayfield the biggest bust since DeMarcus Russell? Mayfield has been to the playoffs. Russell was a total disaster. I can answer that. He's not, but I think he is a bust. I think he's a bust. I think Darnold was a bust. But I'll tell you what, guys. You can't. Seriously, I'm not making this up. Okay. So, you all know this. Let's get it on here, okay? Washington. Daniel Snyder has been under investigation, it seems like, for years, right? He's always not really been a good owner. Constantly firing and bringing in people. He took a quarterback because he went to school with his son a few years ago. That was out there. He's overpaying for players. That's all just, just bad owner, just being too much involved owner kind of guy. Snyder's a guy, he's one of these tech guys that got rich really early in his 30s, kind of got a little over his head. There's been an investigation going on here for a little over a year, I want to say, about him. And this investigation, guys, is about his, there's some sexual harassment stuff going on here, but also it's about cheating the other owners here. It's about cheating the other owners out of value of ticket sales and whatnot. And that can be that could be pretty, that could be damning. And the NFL, the owners' meetings were this week, okay? The NFL needs 24 votes. Now, technically, this investigation, air quotes, is still under investigation, okay? But you need 24 owners out of 32. That's 3/4, right? 3/4 Senate. Sound like I'm talking a little politics to get this guy out. But you know what? And I'm not a big Daniel Snyder guy. People that's watched me for years, I'm not a big Daniel Snyder guy. But the fact that Mr. Irsay comes out and says he believes there's merit to oust Daniel Snyder here. Colts Athletic reports Colts owner Jim Irsay on Daniel Snyder. I believe there's merit to remove him. And then he says, quote, I believe in the workplace today, the standard that the shield stands for the NFL and all this, and that you have to stand for and say and protect that shield. And said his hands shaking as he talked to reporters at fall meeting. I just think that once the owners talk amongst each other, they'll arrive to the right decision. My behalf is that, unfortunately, I believe that the road we probably need to go down is just we need to finish this investigation, but it's gravely concerning to me the things that have occurred over the past 20 years, Irsay referred to. And, of course, the Athletic says Irsay referred to it as actually taking two separate probes, both overseen by former SEC, which is the Security Exchange Commission, Chair Mary Jo White. One of the allegations is Snexter sexually harassed an employee, and the other is concerns over held back revenue that was to be shared with other owners. Obviously, Snyder denies both, asked if he believed that there is necessary 24 votes. And Irsay, the Colts owner, says, I think potentially there will be, but we'll see. And, of course, immediately, a few hours later yesterday, I had so much other stuff I was working on, I didn't get a chance to say it. So a few hours later yesterday, he comes back. Daniel Snyder comes back blasting with this statement. He says, I hope that you and your family are doing well. I would like to address the recent ESPN article that contains fake, false, and malicious statements about the Washington Commanders and our management team. Me and my family, it's particularly shameful for ESPN to diminish the real accomplishments of our president. ESPN alleges that place on the Commanders elite have no power to make any real change. I know this is false. Ultimately, ESPN ignored our efforts to correct the falsehoods made in the article. Okay, so they put out an article a few days ago that he's hiring private investigators to find out dirt on the other owners. That was last week. And then you get Jim Irsay come out this week, yesterday, and said, everything that's come out through this investigation, we think we may have 24 those 24 votes, and I think it has merit to make him sell this team. Now, Jim Irsay is a guy whose dad, we talked about this yesterday, left in the middle of the night. He has some shady dealings from Baltimore Colts going back to 84. I want to say he's had DUI and drug issues in his past of his own. He shouldn't be throwing stones, living in a glass house, other words. And I agree. But as much as I don't really care for Daniel Snyder, I kind of feel like he's getting railroaded. Let's take a trip down memory lane, guys. Okay. Just this time last year during this same investigation, John Gruden, who has nothing to do with nothing, the emails come out about John Gruden through this investigation and gets him essentially fired. He quit. And now he is suing and should, because everybody else's personal emails didn't come out, suing the NFL for a big chunk of money. Brett Musburger, former sports football announcer, he's retired now, but I think he works for a casino or something like that. But Musburger says John Gruden's email leaks were a professional hit job by a paid assassin. All this is connected. But he says the truth will come out regarding the emails and filed a lawsuit against the NFL and the commissioner, Roger Goodell, claiming it was orchestrated campaign to end his coaching career. And this is Brett Musburger. He says, that was one of the best hit jobs that I've ever seen around, says Musburger. He said that this was an article last year on awful announcing. So it seems like this whole thing is somewhat orchestrated, and that rubs me the wrong way. And like I said, I don't like Daniel Snyder, but I don't like how he runs his team and everything. But I don't want to see people get railroaded. I don't want to see backstabbing, passive aggressive, underlings, somebody with some alternative motives to get him to sell. To maybe get a guy like a Jeff Bezos in the league. It's just, let the investigation play out. But it kind of seems like he's getting railroaded. And, like I said, with the John Gruden emails, there's no sense in that. Like, everybody associated with Snyder is getting thrown under the bus, And those emails were with his general manager, at the time, and I can't remember his name. It means no, never mind. But you got guys like Musburger saying this. And other owners around the league, including Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones was like, no, I mean, we don't. Let me see what Jones said about this. And I've got another bite from Jerry Jones, too. Jerry Jones is now behind, is still behind. This is in Rappaport. The Commanders owner, Daniel Snyder. And unless that changes, not much else will. But Jim Irsay, people were putting comments when that come out on the internet last night about what Irsay said, that there's merit to sell. Basically, people were saying it looks like that he's trying to cover up for his own self. And then you got guys like Jim Haslam of the Cleveland Browns. He said, let's let this play out for a little bit. Because the same ones that's trying to get rid of Snyder, remember, there was a report last year, a few months ago, that the owners are really ticked off about Haslam giving Deshaun Watson that big contract, knowing that he had those sexual assault allegations against him, and it was the most guaranteed contract by a team. So a lot of this inroads fighting, you can't make this stuff up. This is big. This is better than Hollywood, guys. This is better than the stuff on Netflix. I've been reading about this for months. Now it's really blowing over in these meetings here. And, part of me has a little bit of empathy for the guy. Because I hate backstabbing, fake. And this is, and also The Athletic says the NFL has never voted to remove an owner. Neither has any other major sport in the United States sports leagues. Former San Francisco 49ers owner Eddie DeBartolo Jr. did cede his ownership to his sister after being immisced into. Basically, he had some gambling scandal in Louisiana. Jerry Richardson also sold the Carolina Panthers in wake of his scandal. Guys, remember that back in 2017. In the NBA, the league was ready to remove Donald Sterling of the Clippers for his comments. Now, that was probably more suitable, but his wife assumed control, and then they sold the team there. So this is crazy stuff right here. I'm saying let everything play out. See, Pickle says it's very political. Does that sound like fraud to anybody else? Well, yeah, I want to make sure that actually is what it is, Brian. I want to make sure that is did that really happen? Who started that? Is there a paper trail? Because I don't know why he would come vehemently out against something like that if there really was a paper trail online about his receipts. It just seems all very fishy to me. And again, I don't like Daniel Snyder. He's a terrible owner. I would love to see a more of a hands-off but check-writing type of owner for Washington to make the NFC East a little bit more competitive. It would be nice to see that. But I also don't like to see this cancel culture and people getting railroaded just because of some kind of backyard political BS. Because what goes around, guys, comes around. So whatever you put out, you get back. And It's very interesting to follow, though. It's like a TV show, if you ask me, guys. And Pickle says it's political. Yeah, and this guy did go to prison. I saw a documentary on DeBarlo. That was interesting. It's something to do with casino and stuff down there. So I can see, and they did do what they had to do with that. But it just, Jimmy Haslam, he says he was not aware Jim Irsay would make his Daniel Snyder's comments, and he's waiting on the Mary Jo White investigation before determination is premature for anybody to make any comments. Jimmy Haslam of the Cleveland Browns. And again, if they do find that out, if he is stealing, go ahead and make him sell the team, and that would be great news for the Washington Commander fans. That would be really good news. But if he's getting railroaded and there's some kind of back channel 50 cent BS, which it kind of sounds like. So who's giving ESPN all this stuff? You know, who's feeding ESPN? There's a lot of weasels. So Adam Schefter is a big weasel. We talked about that before. You know, he acts real buddy towards Robert Griffin III now that he's out of the league. Meanwhile, Robert Griffin said, hey, man, back in 2012, you was reporting all kinds of crazy stuff about my rehab and all that. And Schefter got really shaky on his own podcast there with Griffin. He's like, yeah, I didn't appreciate that stuff, man. You know, so I don't know. It all seems fishy. I just don't like the way it's being handled. And Jim Irsay, come on, man. You really live in a glass house. And we all know it. It seems ridiculous. So, anywho, and then part of the this fallout, Jerry Jones gets in a heated exchange with Robert Kraft over Roger Goodell getting a new contract. And he says, don't F with me. And Kraft says, excuse me. And then they exchange. So that gets out. And long story short there, 31 other owners voted to keep Goodell and keep contract negotiations on with Roger Goodell. So all this stuff is coming out here in the owners' meetings, possibly by the winter meetings, whenever that is. There could be a possibility be for Snyder to get ruled out, and then Roger Goodell could end up getting another contract. Now, why is Jones wanting to do away with Goodell? Well, part of it is because the Ezekiel Elliott, the BS behind his suspension. The other part is what I've been saying about Goodell is he likes to make this stuff about him, dragging these criminal investigations out as if he's the judge and juror and all this stuff, and keeping that bad news in the league just for his own personal ego. Plus, he's getting involved in all these political things going back a few years ago. And of course, the owners had to get him in line there. But the bottom line is he's making them a lot of money, and that's all they really care about. You know, I would have tried to done away with the Roger Goodell from some of the crap, but like I said, the way he handled this Deshaun Watson stuff, that ticked me off. But I was right about the way he handled that Deshaun Watson stuff, because it went to a separate investigation. Remember, they hired an outside party, and there was, remember, she recommended 8 games, and then they both come to a conclusion. It wasn't satisfied between some of the other owners who had it in for Haslam, they don't care about that woman. They had it in for Haslam for giving that contract, and Goodell's kind of in the middle of it. Long story short, they came to 11, and he got out of it because of the crap that he's making it like it about him. You say, well, he's controlled by the owners. Yes, they don't want to hear the heat. They don't want to feel the heat, but he's one of these kind of guys. He's one of these holier than thou, but not really kind of guys, a weasel who likes to see his name in the paper, and he don't matter who gets involved in what, going all the way back to the Adrian Peterson child abuse story. acting like he's a judge, jury, and commission, and he is way out of his lane there. And just like Rusty Hardin, his lawyer says, he said, who the heck do you think you are reading this personal affidavit information on national TV? You're not even a law enforcement. I mean, who are you, a federal judge? You some kind of lawyer? You're the commissioner of an NFL, okay? That is all you are, man. Not to go crazy on Roger Goodell, but I'm just saying this guy is he's a super phony. He's highly political and a weasel and an egomaniac, and he is resting off he is on the success of the previous commissioners, Tagliabue and the guy Rozelle. He's living off their success. The NFL is successful despite Roger Goodell, not because of Roger Goodell. The NFL is successful despite Roger Goodell. What does Brian say? Yeah, he thinks he's the father. Yeah, he thinks he's the father of Adrian Peterson's kid, And Jerry got tired of dealing with that. Jerry was tired about and I'm surprised Robert Kraft had some words, especially with the crap that Goodell has put him through. Goodell's an egomaniac, guys. Okay. But all this stuff is interesting to me. I think it's just crazy drama, like something you would see off the show Billions, or some of you older audiences off the show Dallas, not the team, the show Dallas, J.R. Ewing. This sounds like something back in the 80s and 70s with who was it? Al Davis going to war with that commissioner and taking him to court and suing him. So I thought it was fascinating. I halfway think it's funny. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, guys. So we'll see. We'll see if it all plays out. My guess is, from what I'm reading, I'm going to say 60-40 that Snyder is made to sell the team in the winter meetings. 60 favoring that he would be made to sell. 40%, they're going to look at that stuff, and then they're going to say, well, it's not that big a deal. There was some miscommunication here. This sounds like an orchestrated deal. Plus, that's probably true that Snyder's had some lawyers hire some investigative reporters to look up dirt on the other owners. That is priceless, man. You can't make this up. But all this will come out in the wash. I do believe that it all come out in the wash. I'm just, it's crazy that the stuff that we've got going on. Okay, in other news, Dak Prescott, full practice today. Dallas Cowboy fan, Dalton Schultz is full practice today, by the way. And I tell you what, Dallas is not a bad team here, but I'll say this. Now, Dallas, speaking of Dallas, I'm not a Dallas fan. All this just happens to be coincidence. The Dallas Cowboys are one of the better teams in the NFC. The Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles right now probably are the top two teams in the NFC, considering the injury history, the multiple injuries of the 49ers. And maybe they'll get that spot back when they get Trent Williams back, of course. And the Rams, if they can fix their offensive line issues, they'll get in that conversation. And maybe, especially after last week with the humiliation from the Bucks, the Tampa Bay Bucks, maybe they'll get back. But the Eagles and the Cowboys, with that Cowboy defense, looks pretty good. Now, my thing is, if this Keelan Moore, McCartney, they need to look and say, okay, how do we get those 4 wins? Okay. How do we get those 4? Well, you got those wins. You got those wins by running the football and not getting pass happy if you can't run the football. See what they did last week, Sunday. They got all the way back in that game once Philadelphia ran out of gas a little bit. And kind of the crowd kind of lulled herself to sleep for a little while. They started running the ball. Zeke Elliott gets a pretty good touchdown run there. They cut it to 3 points. If not for the interceptions, they win that game. Plus, they've got Gallup back. Gallup didn't even play the first couple of weeks of the season, guys. So they got Gallup back. But you got to run the football. And if you do not being able to have a successful running game in the first half. Raiders game last year, guys, the Thanksgiving game. I remember watching that with my dad. I was like, they just totally abandoned the run. Totally. 49er game. Totally abandoned the short passing game. Totally abandoned the run in the playoffs. Totally out of the playoffs. But they did not abandon the run in the Giant game. Now we find out the Giants are pretty decent, pretty well coached, 5-1, right? They didn't abandon it there. They didn't abandon it in the Eagles game, okay? They go all the way to cost the country. And, of course, they stayed with it with the Rams, right? They beat remember, they were down early in the Washington game. So that what are they, 4-2 or whatever? So, stick with the running game. They got to play Detroit. They could beat Detroit both ways. If it's me, if I'm McCartney, I'm saying, listen, guys, we're 70-30 running. 70-30 running. They've got Jason Peters is going to be back this week. Dalton Schultz, Dak's favorite guy. Now, if Dak goes in there and starts really messing things up, and I'm telling you, I don't think this is going to happen, but if they mess around and look, Detroit's coming off a bye week, but I think this game is in Dallas. If he comes in there and throws a bunch of interceptions, and for whatever reason, they lose at home to Detroit, I might have to get back on that Cooper Rush bandwagon. I mean, I was reading memes about Cooper Rush after that Philadelphia 3-interception game that people were showing memes of the Joe Pesci character just before he got whacked, going into the getting made off the movie. What's the name of it? Goodfellas. That's the end of this. So, I mean, when you've got Detroit next week, and then around Halloween, you've got Chicago, then you got a bye week. And then after the bye week, they play at Green Bay. They can go up there and beat Green Bay after that bye week. They could go on a 3-game winning streak. They don't have to play Philadelphia again till Christmas Eve on Saturday, December 24th. Now, that's in Dallas. But technically, and they got to play Tennessee pretty close to New Year's Eve on a Thursday game at Tennessee here in Nashville, folks. That will be on Prime Video. But I think it'll also be on local here. But I'm just saying, Dallas has an opportunity. Lesson learned. Don't give up on the running game. Just because you got Dak Prescott back, go out there and run the football. Let's see. Brian says, what happens before Dak is going to throw the ball. Yeah. And that's what Keelan Moore, I blame Keelan Moore for a part of that. I don't think he's calling audibles either. I think this guy, this Keelan Moore, is a former quarterback himself. He wants a big contract somewhere. He wants a big head coaching job, and he wants to look good instead of taking the basic running play. And Mike Westphal said this in his book, that some of these guys would rather throw deep on 4th and inches rather than cut a quarterback sneak or a basic draw. And he's right. I ought to ask him who he's talking about there, but I got a few good ideas. But yeah, that is true. And it's Swift being back. Yeah. Detroit's got a really good offense. That's going to be a high-scoring game there. If it's under 53, take the over in that game. Never been so excited about a Detroit-Dallas game. But I kind of like what Dallas has done the last few weeks. You are a defensive team and you're a running team. Yes, you got Michael Gallup back. Yes, you got Dalton Schultz back. Yes, CeeDee Lamb is out there. And Noah Brown, that 85, I like him as well. I think he's going to be a good replacement there for Amari Cooper. If as a whole, run the bleeping ball. Run the ball. Look what Philadelphia's doing. Philadelphia never got away from the run. They never got away from the run. And they're 6-0, guys. They're good audience tonight, by the way. Teams coming off bye are usually ready to roll. Yeah. They'll run the ball, and Brian said Swift will be back. They're going to come out ready for Dallas, but I like Dallas's defense. And, of course, they have to worry about, Chicago's a bad run defense. You would think Chicago would be better run defense, Brian, but they're about anywhere from 27th to 28th in run defense. You just got to stay away from Roquell Smith. Guys, I'm going to go on a quick 1 minute commercial break. I'll be right back here in just about a minute and 19, okay? Let me make sure and get to my brand here. Be right back, guys. Hello, SportsSkope followers. After 5 years of doing this program once a week, balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsSkope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there. For $5 a month, 17 cents a day, you can help support the program. You ask yourself, why SportsSkope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is SportsSkope, again, spelled the same way. Or you can go to the Zelle app, sportsscope@gmail.com. SportsSkope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsSkope, spelled the same way again, @gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. Dan had to do a little commercial in the middle there. Okay, switching gears, NBA. I'm actually excited about the NBA this year. I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, you got guys like this Nets team, like we've been talking about in the offseason. I thought they should stay together. They're going to have Ben Simmons and Kyrie and Kevin Durant together. And I like what Kyrie said to Shams Charania or Kyrie Irving in an interview just before the season tipped off yesterday. But, man, you know, Kawhi Leonard with the Clippers, Jamal Murray with Denver back. I like to see a good, healthy NBA. Anyways, so Kyrie Irving says to Shams Charania off of The Athletic, he says that teammate Kevin Durant's trade request over the summer helped improve the Nets. He says, we, Kev, made the request. I felt like we got better, Irving told Charania during a sit-down interview at the State. He says, afterwards, not initially, but now I feel like we can honestly say we've got better with the principle that we needed for success without going through some tests in summertime or doing the season. We wouldn't be able to be as close, and we bonded. He says we bonded as well as we are. And this stated that they've only played 44 regular season since 2019. They've just played 44 regular season games together. Load management, Irvin's decision not to get the COVID vaccine shot. Let me just tell you guys about something, okay? Players, guys, athletes, and myself included, okay? To become a great athlete, you have to do training. And whether you're a guy like Herschel Walker, you know, he just popped in my head because he, running for Senate. But Herschel didn't have weights or anything. But he, a coach told him, do push-ups, sit-ups, and wind sprints and run hills, and you'll become a great athlete. Well, do you think he had a whole group of friends to do that, push-ups and sit-ups and stuff, to do all that? No, he did it by himself. Kobe Bryant, a lot of talk about Kobe. Kobe worked out pretty much a loner, worked out a lot by himself. He would go to the gym middle of the night by himself, coming up. A lot of athletes are introverted people. They're quiet people. Like I said, when I was trying to make it in junior high school, a lot of times I just played basketball by myself. I couldn't have any friends to do it. So we lack, we're not necessarily passive people, athletes, but we're not as communicative as we should be, and the reason for that is because you're by yourself a lot. It's a lot of your great athletes are quiet, internal. Tim Duncan's a good example, somebody like that. So these guys had this friction here, and they had to wait till something big like Kevin Durant say, I'm done with this. This guy's not playing any defense. He's not showing up for this and that. He's looking for 59,000. Instead of just talking it out with him. And me, over the years, I just now learned how to do this over the past 10 years, how to be an effective communicator. I took a communications degree, but really when I graduated college, we hit that downward spiral recession, and I had to do a security job. I was reading a lot of books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, learning people's name for effective communication, stuff like that, right? And you're starting to see that with some of these athletes. So they have this blow up when Durant or Irvin or one of the other athletes, players on that team, or even Steve Nash, the bleeping head coach, he's a former player too. They're not really good, effective communicators. You think of a guy like Phil Jackson, who his brother was a psychologist. He helped navigate Kobe and Shaq because of their communication issues and dysfunction, to help them lead championships. The Jordan stuff with him, with his issues with management and with Pippen and the Rodman stuff. So it's that was just funny the way Irvin puts this is because these guys didn't know how to confront each other on this. They never really got that skill out. Not saying that they're not confrontational. They just didn't know how to go about it without really blowing things up and running it for good. It kind of worked itself out. But I thought that was interesting. I think this is going to be a pretty good team. When you got guys like Simmons, Royce O'Neal, Irvin, all they need to do is play some defense. Basically, let Simmons carry the ball up, and you got shooters for days. Now, it'd be nice if they got a guy like Patrick Beverly, get another defender out there, another dog, but a lot of this is because these guys aren't effective communicators. Quite frankly, a lot of athletes are not. They're not because they're internal people. They're not everybody's a Magic Johnson. He's a one in a gazillion, guys. Most of them are quiet people, Tim Duncan. But he had a good coach, communicator. He led by example. We'll see how it works out. But that just made me think about it's just something that people don't notice about these guys because we put them on pedestals or on TV. They sound great and they sound outspoken, but when you get around them privately, they're real quiet. A lot of the great comedians, I hear that Chappelle is a very quiet, shy guy off stage. On stage, he's Dave Chappelle. But it's just something that that could help. Yeah, of course. Yeah, and now that everybody knows where they are, that could help them make the finals. Now that ice is broken and Irvin's coming out and saying it, plus the fact that Irvin is not signed that contract, that's another argument I've been telling people. You want to keep these players on contract years as much as possible, folks. You want to keep them on contract years as much as possible or close to a contract year to get the best out of them. Because Kyrie's going to be all in. He's contract year and all that mailing in. Now you got his attention. And you got a quiet guy that's kind of, a little bit standoffish, but not too much. Standoffish can be taken in a bad way, but really, some guys are just shy. They're shy people. Kareem's a quiet guy. But the cat's out of the bag. Everything's everything. It looks like they've had a good count. Now the East is going to be good. Boston's going to be really good. I think they played well last night and won. Philadelphia is going to be good. Harden's lost a lot of weight. Maxi's going to take another step forward. He can kind of fall behind a Joel Embiid and a Harden and the rest of that depth and kind of do his thing, Maxey, for Philadelphia 76ers. So it's a good, healthy. I like what New York did and like the moves that New York didn't do by bringing in whatchamacallit there from the Jazz, who ultimately was traded somewhere else. I can't remember. Yeah, Pickle says 3-year deal. Yeah, Harden is in shape. Yeah, he was working his rear end off in the summer. So as this fans, guys, we got some great bad. I didn't even mention Miami. I didn't even mention Milwaukee. Milwaukee's probably I think they're probably behind Boston to be the favorites to make the finals. But I do think the Knicks are going to take that next step and they're going to get into the playoffs here. People are giving the Lakers a hard way to go. They played the champs last night. Okay, continue to bring Westbrook off the bench and don't bring him in the last 2 minutes. Now they need more shooters, and I get all that, but people give them a hard way to go. You played Golden State; they're fresh off their championship. What do you expect? You think Golden State's gonna lay an egg in Golden State on their ring night? No way. Still, I mean, Lakers still may be. And oh, that's right. Yeah, Murray ended up going to Cleveland. Yeah, Cleveland's a very young team. Minnesota's got a good storyline. Zion Williamson is back in New Orleans. I mean, I'm out of Nashville. Memphis, they were talking about Durant this and Durant that, but Memphis started naming 2 or 3 players we're not trading. So Memphis may get the 1 seed in the West. So it is deep out there, man. I mean, the West is deep. The East is much deeper than one would think. Chicago's got a year older. Now, of course, I think Zach LaVine is injured. Go figure. And a lot of that is if these players stay, obviously stay healthy. I mean, that is a big if, right? But communication is the key. Association is going to be all. Yeah, it is, man. Cleveland is going to be contend for their division. Association, yeah, it's going to be off the hook. Good for FanDuel. Good for my show. It's going to be good storylines, guys. I didn't have my guests didn't make it tonight. I'm not going to have one tomorrow, but it looks like I got plenty of material. Let's see. Is there any more NBA? Oh, yeah. Speaking of NBA, Charles Barkley has signed an extension with inside the NBA, and the whole cast: Shaq, Barkley, Kenny Smith, of course, the Ernie. All those guys are signed back. Barkley is going to make this. There's rumors this is like $100 million deal, 10-year, $100 million. It could be potentially $200 million. Multiple outlets are reporting this. Let me just say this, man. You guys watch a lot of NBA. I watch a little NBA. Everybody that's talking to me now watches the NBA. And some of these games are dreadful. They are absolutely dreadful. Looks like San Diego just evened the series in the NLCS. I digress. I'm supposed to meet Jamie Paggs Saturday. I don't want him getting too cocky, the Philly sports guy. Anywho, all right, back to this thing. So it's probably the best halftime show out there. NFL, you name it. I haven't watched an NFL halftime show in years, guys. I haven't watched it because I watch NFL Red Zone. And if I'm watching the Super Bowl, yeah, I might watch a concert, but I'm probably getting something to eat or going to the restroom during the 30-minute halftime. But it's the best halftime show on TV. And if anybody remembers, Barkley was talking about going to this LIV golf thing, who was handing out money like it was peanuts. I mean, just much shilling out money. Now, Jason Whitlock is a good friend of Charles Barkley. He said the only reason Barkley's doing this because he wants to get some money out of TNT because that contract is coming up. He's talking about retirement. He didn't like the fact that TNT told him, remember last year in 2021, he couldn't make it. He couldn't fat shame the San Antonio women anymore, which the videos are bleeping hilarious. And he's a little bit irritated by that. Plus the LIV thing came up. He held that over TNT's head. And he comes out like a rose, smelling like a rose and all this. get this huge contract. But it's the best halftime show I've ever seen. It's sometimes it's better than the game. The back and forth for him and Shaq. I know Shaq sometimes has gotten really mad at Barkley, and Barkley's had to kind of calm him down a little bit. But I'm happy to see it. I'm happy, and I think it's funny. And then Pickle says that's dirty Saudi money. Yeah, Barkley knows all that. He was just playing that. He was playing it up, and I'm glad to see him back. And I hope I get a contract like that one of these days, guys. I tell you. Charles Barkley, man. I mean, I'm happy to see it, especially during the playoffs when you got a really good series like a Boston and Milwaukee. You want to see what Barkley says because he's one of the few people that's going to say exactly what's really on his mind in a world full of fake is good. Fake is not good. We like to hear some realness, and Barkley's still one of the real ones out there. So, okay, speaking of big personalities, I got a chance to watch Deion Sanders. It was between the 3:30 East, the great Buffalo Kansas City game, 3:30 Central game, and the Philadelphia Dallas game. I watched this interview with Deion. Deion Sanders was on 60 Minutes on Sunday. And I didn't realize that for Jackson State, his two sons are playing there. Now I'm starting to understand why he took the job. I thought it was just because he was trying to do a good thing, Deion was. He's going to do the HBCU thing. He said he came there after the George Floyd thing. And they're paying him $500,000. This was back in 2020. So technically this is his third season. But his son's the quarterback of the team. And his other son is the cornerback. So he's got two sons on the team. And listen to what he said at the very end. When the reporter asked him about, the interviewer asked him about going to a Power 5 school.
The cinematic version of the story has Coach Prime sticking it out at Jackson State as the program grows on par with those of the
cinematic.
Power 5.
What's I'm for?
The reality, it may not be long before he takes his gold whistle to a school that doesn't need to beg for resources. What happens when a Power 5 school says, give us a number, we'll make it work?
I'm going to have to entertain it.
You are?
Yes, I'm going to have to entertain it. Straight up. Why would I be a fool not to?
So, and he went on later to say that it's to help my assistants get paid. Now, college football coordinators, position coordinators can make close to $1 million a year. Position coaches can make 100,000. If it's a big school, 150 to you name it. I know strength and conditioning coaches, they're making $500,000 a year. Up in Iowa, $500,000 a year, the highest grossing one. The one from Alabama a few years ago was making $250,000 a year, and so he's on the record of saying that. Now, nobody said anything about interviews for Georgia Tech. Nobody said anything about interviews for Nebraska. Who's the other one, guys? Georgia Tech, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Brian. Nobody said anything about Wisconsin. Corey said, must be the money. That was his big song he made out in the 90s. It was pretty good for an athlete. So what is it? He's waiting on that Auburn job, guys. He's waiting on that Auburn job. Everybody, in my mind, 80-20. 80-20. And I read a report today that Auburn's not going to, air quote, make a decision until November on Brian Hartson, the head coach there. That's after the Alabama game. And it's in Alabama. It's in Alabama. So I do think that he would take that Auburn job if offered to him, which I think it will be. Somebody went into Deion Sanders. If you guys Google Deion Sanders Wikipedia, somebody put in the other day, it may not be in there, but takes Auburn job 2022. Now, mind you, he got the now he's going to leave these guys. He's going to leave Jackson State high and dry because now remember he got Travis Hunter this year. This guy's a freshman, the #1 player in the country, Travis Hunter, who was a Florida State commitment. He's a cornerback. Now, hey, Deion's the greatest cornerback of all time, probably, you know. And Deion got him to walk away from Florida State to go to Jackson State. But now he'll probably just bring Justin Hunter over from Jackson State to Auburn, my guess is. So he's kind of leaving Jackson State high and dry. He did get some public notoriety. The interview also said that he got them to build them a new something with their facility, and he got Walmart to pay for it. So he did bring some good to Jackson State up in down in Jackson, Mississippi. But he's going to take these players with him. He's going to take this #1 player with him, this Travis Hunter, and he's probably. I think he'll take that Auburn job. I think. And here's the crazy thing about it, guys. He's on Aflac commercials with Nick Saban. So let me ask you, do you think he's going to do more Aflac commercials with Nick Saban, the Alabama coach, the biggest rival of Auburn, and in college football? That's where the juicy part of this story is going to be. If you turn on any commercial during in one of these big time college games like Alabama, Tennessee, right? If you turn that on during that, you're going to see Dr. Pepper commercial, and you're going to see Deion Sanders and Nick Saban doing a commercial together for Aflac, the duck commercial. So I don't think that they would do it. I think that they'll probably not do the commercial together because Saban's going to fight like all get out to get those recruits. And Deion is showing not only is he a good recruiter, he's also got a heck of a record down at Jackson State. So I think he's ready. I think that 3 years, I think they're undefeated right now. They went 11-1 last year. They won their conference last year. The SWAC, I think is what it's called. You got guys like Eddie George. He's at TSU, former Titan. So he's kind of like a movement. It's all started for former players taking HBC's jobs, HBCU, Historically Black University jobs. But now he's wanting to go for the Power 5 job. And like the guy from 60 Minutes, I was hoping it would have been like a cinematic ending where he would have stayed there, at least through one class. Now, he's 3 years in. So his freshman class could technically leave if they make it to the NFL. But, we'll see how it plays out. My guess is, my prediction, folks, Harsin will be fired because he's not going to be at Alabama. This is his second year at Auburn. They've already lost to who they lose to. They got blown out by Georgia. They've already lost to LSU. They got blown out by Penn State. There was a scandal when he first got hired, something to do with some affair with an assistant or something like that, going back to Boise State. So my guess is Auburn will fire you in a New York minute. They will fire you, and they've got the money to do it, to buy out your contract by no means, and they will give Deion what he wants, and it's going to make that interesting, and he's probably going to take that Auburn job. Pickle says Florida State. Well, Florida State's playing pretty well this year. I want to say they lost to Clemson, and they did lose to Wake Forest, but they have played pretty well. They did beat LSU, but that don't look like a huge win. But LSU did beat Florida. Now, Tennessee beat LSU, but we found out Tennessee's good. They beat Alabama, But so he's going to take that job over. Speaking of Alabama, this is a story. This is kind of in the there's a video of this Alabama player slapping this Tennessee female fan in the head. It's kind of blurry. It's kind of blurry. I will say this before I jump to any conclusion on this story. I think Saban will handle it right. Whatever happens, I think he's going to look at it. He's going to handle it right. They got enough players. They don't have to deal with any nonsense like that. But I'll say this. The Alabama fans have not taken this loss well. Not everybody. I don't want to paint broad brushes, but I've read more negativity, crazy stuff. Some of the Alabama fans that I know around town, they have not handled this well at all. Hey, man, the team gave up a lot of points, okay? Tennessee, they've already beat LSU. They already beat Florida. Alabama was struggling. I'm talking to the Alabama fan. You struggled against Texas A&M. Your quarterback was hurt in the game before that. I mean, what do you expect? You expect to go undefeated every year. They're not. And there's another story that an Alabama fan here, let me check this out, folks. This was a man in Florence, Alabama was arrested for firing a shotgun at his neighbor's home after getting into an argument about the Tennessee-Alabama game. Now, how crazy is that? Because, see, they don't have pro teams down there, and that's all they think of is Alabama. Alabama will bounce back. You've got 6 national championships out of Nick Saban. God knows how many. I can't even think of how many Heisman Trophy winners, first-round picks, money to the university, statues built. What else do you want? You're on every other commercial. You see, they've had 3 championships. They've had 3 championship coaches in my lifetime. I want to say Bear Bryant, who retired in 82. That's when Tennessee snapped their last streak with Johnny Majors. I saw that the other day. And then they had, I can't remember the other guy's name, but they won in 92. They beat Florida in the championship game. I think they beat like Nebraska or Miami in the national championship game. That was the first year of the SEC championship game. Then they won the national championship game. And then, of course, they had Nick Saban. They've got 6 more. What do you want? This, be a good sport about it. Geez, you can't. Plus, the fans have nothing to do with it. It's all about the coaches and the players, okay? Dion is about Dion. He wanted FSU job. Yeah, Pickle says he wanted that now. He would like to have FSU, but he would take Auburn job. He would take Auburn job, and that is my prediction. That is my prediction that he's going to take that job. I wish he would have hung around a little bit long, but we brought on. I brought on. Who was it the other day? Keith Angle the other day, and Angle says he's just going to say whatever it is for the camera, but once the job comes along, he's going to take a big job. And Keith was right. The fact now you heard the soundbite. He says he's going to entertain it. But I do like some of the stuff. If you get a chance, Google. You guys can go to YouTube and watch that 60 minutes. It's only about 13 and a half minutes. And I didn't know Dion had his had some toes amputated because of his blood clots in his leg. He's had some health problems. He's 55. He's had some health problems, but I think he's going to be all right. He's Dion, right? So if you guys like the show, share the show tomorrow. No guest, but I'll be back on 7 p.m. Central Time, same place, same time here on SportsSkope. We'll go over the teams that need to win this weekend. There's need, and then there's need. That with the exclamation point. That need to win tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time. These guys will be. I could tell you a few. That need to win. Green Bay's one of them. I'll give you that. Green Bay's one of those teams that need to win, and Denver right off the bat. And we'll go into that, okay? So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you same place, same time here on Sports Scope. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Pickles.